So these are definitely Minority Report style opening credits, but first, the DreamWorks logo is funny because it already starts on water, but more importantly, it would be so easy to think that this is just a little reference to the precogs being underwater, but it's actually so much more important to the story. Also, the most obscure title for a movie about murder, psychics, and super cop Ethan Hunt running real fast from his own men. Although, let's be for real. In '02, you could name a Cruise Spielberg movie, The Adventures of Doof Dunk, the accordion-playing marmot, and we'd still be there opening night. Stabbing is always brutal, but hey, I love a good PG-13 stab where the impact is cut. After spending time with Prey and Final Destination and Saw for my super awesome Nebula exclusive video about horror sequels, I'm good with some stuff left to the imagination for a bit. This type of delivery is always kind of creepy and very much works for establishing the precog's whole thing.
Agatha nailed the time frame at 8:04 a.m. The twins are a little fuzzy on that, so we'll need confirmation.
Even though the detectives don't seem to understand the implications, this first murder sets up that the precogs don't always agree on everything. Jad's little spiel lets us know how this world works before we understand how important that will be later.
My fellow witnesses are Dr. Catherine James and Chief Justice Frank Pollard.
I'm sure you know that Minority Report is based on a Philip K. Dick short story, and leave it to Dick to keep it as realistic as homicide profits becoming a whole police division can be. Because he has a doctor and a judge, because they haven't gotten to completely suspending due process yet.
4 a.m., that is 24.
Such a wonderfully weird detail to put on classical music to watch some death. Well, pre-death. Also, it's Franz Schubert's Symphony No. 8, widely known as the Unfinished Symphony, which works for when you're trying to make some murders be unfinished. What a camera angle on the scissors.
I show 8 Howard marks in the district, sorting by race and age.
Not being able to find Howard builds the suspense, even if 20-ish years later this is laughable considering Rainbolt can do this in seconds and he's just some guy, as far as we know. But the number of things they get so close to correct, but for some reason no one could imagine wireless connections or the idea of a network. I blame Star Trek, which is good company to be in because one iPad-like device per document is ridiculous, but much like those, this data transfer plate thingy looks sweet.
We'd have lunch together.
Cannot consecrate.
I would love to.
The brave men, living and dead.
I have an open
Let's
house
stop here.
at the Wrestler Place.
I kind of understand why movies always make a point of telegraphing to the audience when someone is lying because she's good enough at it that I believe her. The pause would make me wary, but clearly Howard suspects.
Investigator from the feds here.
Yeah, I don't need some twink from the Fed poking around right now.
I left you a message at your house.
Check in with the papers they had it forwarded, see if the neighbor...
Fletcher's glanced to the door because the twink is already there.
Danny Whitworth, twink from the Fed. Whoops.
It's such a Tom Cruise moment, the stare and slight pause. Also, I'm no expert, but from my understanding and extensive Google image searching, Colin Farrell is not a twink. However, these days, he's almost certainly a daddy.
It's on flight time.
The way I drive, 3 minutes after wheels up.
Ha! You would, Arizona. Grey's Anatomy, am I right? I'm right. Love that he only has the scissors because he was irritatedly cleaning up. Glad to see Boba Fett's starship, TM, is joining the fight without any other questionable name that Disney is trying to erase from memory. Ha! Repelling from nowhere since we aren't shown the ship at first. This'll feel like an icky humans are complex win, but I think it's interesting that she clearly didn't want to go to the bed as some sort of line she'd drawn in her own mind. I'm cheating, but at least I'm not disrespecting my husband by cheating in our bed. The irony being that in her attempt to not cross that line, her husband ends up witnessing something that crushes his soul.
Let's go to bed.
Let's do it in here.
The bed is soft.
I'm soft.
This little shot through the merry-go-round sets up an incredible 2-minute sequence of cinematography and editing. After John gets the confirmation that Marks didn't close the door, some decent detective work to even ask that, he throws off his helmet so he can full out Tom Cruise sprint. And then we start cutting back and forth between calmer Steadicam shots of Howard about to do some murder and frenetic handheld shots with balls to the wall running as John tries to get there in time. Another quick shot through the merry-go-round and then the camera both chases him up the stairs and races to the door from the inside as if to open it for him. Then another calm shot through Howard's glasses of his victims before John gets there literally just in time, staring at his timer going off on his wrist through the window as he catches up with the future. Masterclass. And perfect. The writing is perfect because he couldn't have cut it any closer, and perfect because we're now fully on pre-crime side. A complete fantasy version of law enforcement with no casualties and no questions, nothing to even debate. Howard gets charged with pre-murder, but this would absolutely be attempted murder anyway. Had the address not been wrong, they could have arrested him outside his house before he even saw Trenchcoat Dude going inside, and the charge would have been the same, which may have had us squinting a little. Instead, John literally prevents the scissors from entering the future victim. And it's still hilarious that 4 cops bust through a skylight sending shards of broken glass all over the pre-victims. It may be the future, but Leo still be Leoing.
Officer Scott with the Pre-Crime Trauma Response Unit. Your husband is being arrested by officers from pre-crime.
Pre-crime trauma response unit? This is good. This is a good thing.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
But this seems bad, whole thing seems bad, which is kind of the point, even if much like John, we're still feeling conflicted because it's so effective.
In the 6 years we've been conducting our little experiment, there hasn't been a single murder.
I always thought that stat was very impressive, and then I realized recently that he could lie. He could just be lying like he would if he was a real person in power in the US. Also, he literally murdered someone, just like the real people in power in the US. Uh-oh, political wins is getting too cinema-y. Murder bad, don't come for me. I'm a sucker for the subject walking into the field of focus. I want to be all, poor guy is so dysregulated, but nah, this cereal box is violence.
Gotta keep running.
Gotta keep running.
The way our sympathies get tossed around in just 5 minutes is wild. First, it's sweet, John's the bestest murder-stopping agent ever. Then, oh no, he's addicted to heroin, heroin. And finally, wait, he lost his entire family and his son was kidnapped? Suddenly, everything we've seen about him makes perfect sense. It expertly sets up a story about a cop trying to save his son in the past by saving everyone else in the present. Or future, I guess?
Look, put the camera down, or you're not getting anything tonight.
What? Why did that? Oh, right. The way it cuts out so quickly is perfect. Ha! Identiscan. I hope whoever came up with that is pleased with themselves to this day. It should be the last thing they think about before they fall asleep every night. Same for the ex-cargo guys.
The pre-conks see the future, and they're never wrong. But it's not the future if you stop it.
Ladies and gentlemen, and all divine beings of great taste in gender identities, that's pretty much the entire theme of the movie said so casually.
Precogs don't see what you intend to do. Only what you will do.
Then why can't they see rapes?
There's nothing more destructive to the metaphysical fabric that binds us than the untimely murder of one human being by another.
Danny is meant to be the heel for now, but all of his questions are logical, and he correctly points out the strangeness of why only murder is seen. The truth for the movie is that they definitely don't know why, but it's an okay lampshade for us. For the record, I have to assume this lady's testimonial
He was gonna rape me.
was that she was going to be raped and murdered, or there's a gaping plot hole in this movie. I'll stick with the former.
I'm here as his representative, which means you're now operating under my supervision.
The crouch down is such amazing condescension. For those unaware, this is what you're supposed to do for children to meet them at their level. Another fun shot, this time a quick 42-second wonder that follows Danny at first, but since it's only John with the credentials to get in, the camera pauses until John walks into frame and then picks up the pace to keep up with John, who doesn't slow down.
Don't want him to drift off into too deep a sleep. Can't be kept too awake either.
It's better if you don't think of them as human.
Yeah, man, it's like, dang, I get why that line is in there, but goodness gracious, John, get a clue.
Perfect, I agree. If there's a flaw, it's human.
And you were right, just not the human you initially thought.
Wally.
You don't see it coming because he just started talking. Love this shot from Agatha's POV, sinking below the water, similar to her mother. Wonderfully weird detail, but when you get Delmar O'Donnell, you let him music. Wait, why does that sound familiar?
A tour they got planned for tomorrow. Told me to wear a tie. You like this one?
Stop.
Which is meaner, completely ignoring him or actively telling him to stop talking?
Now that is one bad man. He drowned a woman named Ann Lively out at Roland Lake.
Further proof of a flawed system that the prison guard, as it were, uses the past tense about something that didn't technically happen. It's, an affirmative past indicative to describe a prevented action, thereby a counterfactual lacking conditionals? Yeah, that seems right. Maybe it's just easier, but it works very well to dehumanize these people who haven't actually committed any crimes, especially when their victims are still usually alive.
On account of those are not his eyes. He had them swapped out to fool the scanners.
Honestly, the fact that double eye transplants are possible, easy, and seemingly automated in this reality is way undersold.
Chief, it's against the rules.
Anything else going on in here that's against the rules?
What does it say that we don't even need to hear details to 100% believe that shady and illegal things are going on across space and time inside the prison industrial complex?
You said the third prevision was what? Kind of fuzzy or something?
No, Agatha's prevision wasn't there.
Well played, Lamar. I mean, crappy played, honestly. If you weren't so important in John's life, he would have seen right through you.
There are a dozen more cases with missing previsions.
That little line implies that Ann Lively wasn't the only one.
People trust you, John, when you speak of your absolute belief in pre-crime. They know it's a belief born of pain, not politics. I may have even encouraged it to help with the cause.
Okay, the little, oh, you said didn't exist, but I'm so old and new to the story, I thought you said fuzzy bit was bad spycraft, but sprinkling in a little truth of the actual betrayal about to unfold? Even pseudo-apologizing for it? Genius.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, little buddy.
Daddy's in a lot of trouble, Sean.
Oh, is Daddy? What's Daddy gonna do about it?
It looks like federal housing, concrete and glass egg crates.
Oh.
See, Trevor Rainbolt could make bank at this job.
Chief Henderson, what is this that I'm seeing? I'm confused about...
Love that everyone is so confused because it makes absolutely no sense that the guy in charge of preventing 1,108 murders would plan a murder.
Give you 2 minutes before I hit the alarm.
Ever heard of the blue wall of silence, Wally? It's a terrible thing, and I appreciate you letting my antagonist go, but still eventually sounding the alarm for a murder.
Hey, put the gun down, John. I don't hear a red ball.
Perfect timing. The way the confidence drains from his face. Glad to see Aquafina still kicking around in 2054. Not surprising, Nora's immortal. Oh, the water. Only slightly less gross than Dasani. I feel like this might finally be the take that gets me canceled.
Just tell me, who's Leo Crow?
Playing dumb is Lamar's go-to move. Character continuity.
You can't run, John.
Everybody runs.
I can, and I would. I honestly never noticed that he lands like that because I was distracted by all the other people doing it on purpose. It reminds me of the opening of a different movie, but if I say it, you'll Google it and then you'll be mad at me. Let's say it's not called Long Unicycle. Yeah, that works.
You knew he was doping, yet you did nothing about it.
The man lost a child, for Christ's sake.
6 years ago.
Good point. Danny Kid was only 6. Studies have shown that it only takes as many years as they were alive to get over it.
I'm gonna enjoy working here.
Okay, I'm not gonna keep worshiping at the altar of the camera work the whole movie, but another 40-ish second oneer for this entire conversation, and then a single cut before a quick slide around the back of Danny to then quickly back away as he grabs his coat and drops some sarcasm.
Stands provides gourmet cuisine.
John Anderson. You can use a Guinness right about now.
Hell, this is what hell is. This would be my hell. And what's funny is that we've made it even worse in real life since these would all be AI ads specifically tailored to our tastes. Dystopian. I mean, the eye scan everywhere you go in public is enough to call this one of the craziest surveillance states on steroids ever. Controversial, but I also think this would be bad. Sometimes the blocking and staging makes me feel like I just watched a melody perfectly resolve itself. It's a nothing shot, but having the newspaper reader go from eyes down to eyes up while the person is crossing the frame is very satisfying to my brain. And then they did it again. Also, let's be honest, Tom Cruise sprints like a champ.
I don't have to run.
Everybody runs, Fletch.
I really don't know why this is the tagline of the movie about future crime, but somehow it works. Thank you, I won't be taking any notes about past, present, or non-existent future people running, thank you. Ha! You know how I know he's gonna get away? The halo isn't lined up with his head like it was on Mark's.
John, it's okay.
Like, it's not. I get it, they're just doing their jobs and stuff, but this is exactly the problem with pre-crime. John will or would kill Leo Crow, but as of right now, he has no idea who that is or why. But if he gives up, the trial already took place when they viewed the prevision. That's a little messed up, bruh. Really love that the 6 sticks are named so literally.
Got a grip? Got a grip.
And obviously he doesn't want to kill or even hurt his fellow pre-crime officers. Well, except not. He kind of wants him to suffer. I love how high-tech but low-polish this whole set piece is. John's completely stoic face as they fly through a gun barrel. It says a lot that her instinct is to tell them to leave. Stuff like this probably happens more than it should. Beef. It's what's for collateral damage dinner. This guy gets it. Why even bother?
Get him off me, Fletcher. Get him off me.
Poor Nod has just given up at this point. 6 sticks, sonic blasters, at least this totally dystopian hellscape has some pretty cool non-lethals. Although I believe we're calling them less lethals now, because when you aim them at civilians' heads, rubber bullets seem to do some damage. Yep. It's like these suits don't know they're dealing with Ethan G.D. Hunt. Look, in the sky, it's a Fed, it's a daddy, it's Priest Cop. John doesn't even defend himself. He must not have heard me and was still acting on his old twink information. Haha, you tell him, Dano. So bad it's good, and also classic that it made it into the trailer. The only thing missing is a why I oughta. This whole sequence is dope and also can be tough to buy if you think about it too hard. But hey, electric cars don't need physical keys. I don't know, man. Why I oughta.
I'm not a killer.
You sure about that?
Impure form of the drug, not the engineered cocktail that became so popular among the more educated.
It's always a winning formula to have the quirky character quirk out some exposition. We need to get through lots of info, and they seem just weird and probably lonely enough that they'd talk this much to a stranger. Also appreciate how she snuck in the little crack versus cocaine illusion.
Certainly not the Attorney General who just wants it all for himself, and not the young federal agent who wants your job.
I love how she reveals that she knows the intricacies of everything going on.
Inside the precog who predicted it.
Oh, all right. I mean, who wouldn't pass up the opportunity?
And then walk out.
Actually, I think you have to run out, but yes, that is what you have to do.
good advice. No. To be fair, this is only like a degree away from what the nurse had to do to me to prick my finger for blood when I was a kid. Definitely not now. Now I see through her tricks.
But I want to keep the old ones.
Why?
Because my mother gave them to me.
Whitwer knows the real answer.
Why won't it just run?
Because he thinks he's innocent?
She only has eyes for you.
John liked that one.
Thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to get to know myself so much better. And now to return the favor.
You might be wondering, if this guy has such a vendetta out for John, why, oh why is he helping him? An Asian man's eyes are more of a prank than any kind of revenge. I think it comes down to knowing that getting one-time revenge on John wouldn't be nearly as satisfying as helping him so he can take down the pre-crime unit and hurt law enforcement in general.
I left him because every time I looked at him, I saw my son.
Oof, sucks, but fair.
Don't scratch. Never scratch!
It feels like the one line from the eye surgeon consultant that made it into the script.
Shoot this baby up there, right on your chin.
What is this?
Oh, it's gonna turn your pretty face into mush.
Even though it probably feels like he's in everything, Peter Stormare is still so underrated. The Big Lebowski, John Wick 2, Fargo, and then his killer parts in Constantine and Longmire. He's one of those actors who is so recognizable and always steals the moment. And he's such an amazing cast for this role. Why is he making duck noises? Exactly.
Okay.
Just kidding, he's actually singing along with Miss Van Eyck's rendition of Smilgrodona, Little Frogs in English, a Swedish midsummer song. One of the verses is just kuakaka kuakaka. You can actually hear her doing it while she essays our hero. Also, she replaced ears with eyes in the lyrics. What gorgeous lighting. It sets the mood for the blinding light at the pool that's about to come.
25.16.
This ethereal choral score will always make me feel stuff, and so far it only plays when John is whiffing, as they say. This is the impetus for the story, obviously, and it's devastating, but you're almost twice as likely to get struck by lightning than your kid is to get kidnapped by a stranger. Someone the child knows, however, somewhere between 90% and 99.9% of all kidnappings, depending on the source and year. Obviously, it does still happen, but I think the rarity is why we've all instinctively looked for an in-story explanation, and Lamar being a part of it? Yeah, that checks out for me. 6 hours left. Well, fun fact about me, no, I would hate this. Every time I watch this, I try to will it to change. Alas. But Luke approves. Bad boys, bad boys. Ha, they think Cops will be on in 2054. They canceled that in 2020, bro. Oh, looks like Fox Nation rebooted it. Well, another 30 years, and now they're right, aren't they?
No, I just want to watch him use your body to sandblast into the building, that's all.
Fletch is still hoping John's innocent. I know I said I wasn't gonna keep freaking out over these inventive set pieces, but I lied. We're being shown another dystopian law enforcement overreach that's such a part of the citizens' daily lives, they just keep pooping. They pause their fight and then resume as soon as the scan is over. Mothers know exactly how to make it less painful for their kids. But since it's shown to us in this long oneer going over the tops of the walls, I'm all, cool, bring it on, government daddy spiders. Oh, so they're smart too. Cool. Chill. And John knew enough to not even exhale. That bubble just escaped. You can't see the full name, but Makasuki doesn't quite fit with John's vibe. You know, he's more of an Algren.
Bedroom, television, and weight room. It really is wonderful to be a precog.
Propaganda. No, that's not a win. But Spielberg isn't playing coy about it since the next scene is this. What a wonderful slapstick scene in the middle of a super tense B&E.
Ident, John Anderton, approved for entry.
Bureaucratic incompetence to the rescue. Seriously, I absolutely believe that the chain of people it'd have to go through to restrict John's access means it would be weeks before it was revoked, and this is like day 2.
Who are you? I like you, Wally, so I don't want to have to kick you or hit you with anything hard.
Tell Daddy more. I've honestly lost track of who Daddy is at this point. Is that Frank Grillo? It is Frank Grillo. I never noticed him before.
What?
Is it now?
Ask that every time I wake up.
Miss Balfour, did you come back for another pair of those chamois lace-ups?
And that's where I exit public life. Nope, no thank you.
I want to kill my boss.
It's sort of crazy how much closer we are now to this with AI. They never address it, but John's definitely blind in that left eye from the spider light. I mean, we saw it go all milky, but that thing is cooked. Which, if everyone else was blind, he'd be king.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Jesus Christ. Are you reading my mind right now?
Get up.
It probably seems silly, but when all the people in power have built precogs up as divine for 6 years, his reaction seems fair.
I do this. I get to keep whatever images I get from her head.
They don't belong to anybody.
Take her to Radio Shack.
Sick. Glad to hear it bounces back by 2054. I've missed the Shack.
Where's my minority report?
Do I have one?
No.
Next time, ask before all of this, but I can't blame him. The movie title is a thing that does exist, just not for the protagonist. Also, while this isn't a plot hole at all, if you have a problem with it, you might be underestimating what Agatha is willing to go through for her freedom. The pacing is great in the build-up for this moment, and the quiet mall background noise and the easy listening version of Moon River really adds to it. And it's fun that it takes John a second to realize she's not just being annoying, she's saving his life.
Can you see the umbrella? Take it. Take it!
Janusz Kaminski's choice of lighting here is so 2000s. I don't hate it, and it gives this whole section its own weird sparkly vibe. It's like the Pepsi ad didn't get the memo about people underwater being bad.
He knows. Don't go home.
Just casually saving people's lives while on the run.
Drop some money.
May the Lord bless you.
I want to take that blessing back. Uncool, Aggie.
How about now?
Oh, that spin was so smooth. At first I was all, hey, that's Ethan from Lost, and then went looking for him and realized he's got bit parts in a bunch of Tom Cruise movies early in his career, but they seem to stop after this one, and then I realized they're cousins. Uncovered the conspiracy. Hugging? Kinda. Made for a cool shot. Even without seeing her in the vision, the third eye tattoo would really have you thinking.
Leave. Leave.
Not listening to Agatha would go against every one of my instincts. But also, I think John is partially stuck in the idea that the precogs have to be right, otherwise, what's he been doing for the last 6 years?
I'm not being set up.
You absolutely are, and if it weren't concerning your son, you'd know. He's literally wearing the same clothes from what looks like a school photo. I don't think this is supposed to be a particularly good frame job.
I was gentle. I was gentle.
Believe it or not, that's one of the worst possible things to hear. And it makes this very real. John just got confirmation for what he probably knew was true, but any bit of hope he had was obliterated. So the mollywhopping he gives Leo is totally unhinged.
If you don't go through with this, my family gets nothing.
Still such an expertly executed twist, because John just admitted that he wasn't being set up, and this actually did make sense to him now. Something Lamar would obviously know about John, and know he could count on emotion overriding reason and logic.
You're not gonna kill me. You're right, Crow.
I've got a lot of thoughts on this that I moved to the conclusion, but for now, the reasoning used for John killing Crow is totally believable, even if to us it was clearly a setup. Appropriate reaction.
This was all arranged.
And I've always loved this flip because this is still in line with who Danny Whitwer is. He's never been out to get John, he just thinks pre-crime is too perfect, so of course he'd notice the crime scene itself is too pristine. Sadly, we only get about 5 minutes of happiness.
But the murder itself happened exactly as the precogs predicted it would.
While we know there are clearly flaws in the system that can be exploited, this is the first time we're really seeing that it can't possibly be as perfect as they think it is, if that's how they're reporting this still.
Because right now, the precogs can't see a thing.
It's so insanely obvious to me now, but at 17 this blew my mind. I had an inkling during the scene, but was still surprised that Lamar was the guy to pull the trigger. Still a pretty darn good twist. Danny gets about 10 seconds of being on John's side, and it's refreshing that while he did want John's job, he was just chasing the truth and didn't ignore it or hide it once it started unfolding to him. Also, big fan of the way Lamar's jacket closes right before he executes Danny.
Please don't tell Danny Whitwer. I don't trust him.
I won't say a word.
Lamar, you had a chance to drop a one-liner and you biffed it. I would have accepted Danny won't hear anything from me. The glance over his shoulder is good, though.
He's no killer, Lamar.
I know.
Ha! He does.
He likes to run, like his father. He runs the 2-mile and the long relay. He's 23. He's at a university. He sees his daddy. He wants to run to him, but he's only 6 years old, and he can't do it. And the other man is so fast.
Brutal alternate future history story that ends with a heartbreaking reality check. I think I'd just implode after the emotional roller coaster John has been on for the last hour.
I'm sorry, Dawn, but you're gonna have to run again.
Everything Agatha says sounds like a threat, even the good advice. Straight up scariest thing in a movie ever. Nothing compares. It feels right that they're all so pissed after chasing him across the state, even if Not might be enjoying this a little too much. Something tells me he had a different path before pre-criming. And now you know what's going on, because this time he's framed inside the halo.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murders of Leo Crow and Danny Whitwer.
Imagine hearing that Danny is dead right before being sedated.
I missed you so much.
He was weird before, but it's really settling in why Agatha wants out. This is not living. And putting the hero of the movie in coma prison is a bold move in the last act.
The containment files. See if anyone drowned a woman by the name of What did you say her name was?
I very often hate this trope. A lot of the time the person lying just offers up extra information, but that's not what Lamar did. He just got mixed up on what details she'd given him, playing dumb about Anne's name again.
Anne Lively. But I never said she drowned.
However, I know I can't change the trope in movies, and the reason people do it is just in case we missed it. But if someone ever tells you to your face that they're lying, just play along. Don't you dare say, "but I never said." It's literally insane behavior. Who would have thought just sliding a chair out of the way could be so menacing?
Perhaps tomorrow I'll come by the cottage.
Also, the menacing pronunciation of cottage.
I'd like a word with my husband.
You are not authorized.
That's such a perfect response. And the horror organ sound.
Without her, you wouldn't be where you are now, standing there signing autographs.
Okay, Spielberg actually got confused this time because this is literally just Ethan Hunt letting Zubair know he's watching him. That was a 3 Days of the Condor reference, FYI.
Chad, what are you doing with that?
You're up to, big man.
Chad, let's think before you send that.
Chad's always been the man. Honestly, I totally believe they didn't have the pre-crime trauma response unit yet, since this was one of the first. Heartbreaking that everyone runs, but Agatha can do nothing to change her mother's story. Appropriate reaction. It's one thing to find out your husband is a murderer. It's another thing to see the memory of him doing it while you're at a party celebrating it, and also you're at retirement age.
That little girl could have saved Sean.
Don't you ever say his name!
I just never get tired of Tom Cruise saying things loudly. And he's no Natalie Portman, but he can pull off the head shave.
You know your own future, which means you can change it if you want to.
And that's pretty much the main issue. Problem is, if you tell most people they have the choice to do the murder and go to jail or just not do that, the choice is pretty easy. But thinking back, this quote from Lamar's father really explains him so succinctly.
You don't choose the things you believe in. They choose you.
As if pre-crime was preordained, that nothing Lamar could do in the pursuit of this national good could be considered bad. And he's a bad person, but not in a mustache twirly way. We all have a line, his just happened to be on the other side of murder, and also imprisoning his surrogate son for murder. Honestly, couldn't ask for much more than this ending. I mean, I'll watch Minority Report 2, Sean's alive, and he's the new bad guy, but this is good for now.
A place where they could find relief from their gifts. A place where they could live out their lives in peace.
Not to get all negative Nancy, but do you think they occasionally call in when a particularly awful murder is gonna happen? Nah. I've always loved this movie. Saying a movie made in 2002 is a classic hurts my bones. But at this point, that's what it is. That said, there's always been one thing that's bugged me, and I want to take you on my journey of maybe sort of making it make sense adequately for my brain, and maybe it'll work for you too. I don't think plot hole is appropriate in a time travel, time viewing movie because paradoxes. Danny points that out early on.
Isn't that a fundamental paradox?
But I've always thought it was a bit of a cheat that the prevision of Leo Crow's murder contained the lines,
You're not gonna kill me.
Goodbye, Crow.
Because it's fun that both lines have double meanings, but in the prevision, John is standing back and clearly fires at Crow to kill him, saying goodbye from this mortal coil. But the reality is that John says goodbye because he's about to leave without killing Crow.
You're not gonna kill me. Goodbye, Crow.
Anderson, wait a
Crow's line is disappointment that John won't kill him, not a taunt. There would be no real reason for him to say that line and risk John changing his mind in the prevision version. But fine, I can give that a pass. The fact is that John prevents the murder and changes the future. We know that because the timer goes off and Crow is still alive. So maybe it's a coincidence that the lines are the same, or John even says it because he heard it in the prevision. There's a whole fate and predestination thing going on anyway. I've still never loved it, but one line has helped me be more okay with it.
This is the official composite of the 3 precogs?
What we see, what John sees in the prevision, is a composite of all 3 precogs, and we know they don't always agree. Obviously, it's like one of the main plot points of the movie. But while John doesn't have a Minority Report, that doesn't mean the precogs' visions are all going to be exactly the same. So we could be hearing lines from Agatha's version and getting visuals from one of the twins. For the record, this is nitpicky beyond nitpicky, but it's something I've thought about a lot. John says he was planning to kill him, so that's all we really need to know. And regardless of whether it was just a tiny little cheat or not, it still works. Should John have locked himself in a room 2,000 miles away? Yep, obviously. But that's not who John is. He explains it a little when he's confronting Lamar in the end. He believes in pre-crime to a fault. He knew the precogs couldn't be wrong, so he wanted to know why he was going to kill someone. And the future cops would have still arrested him because ultimately they were corrupt. Not like Fletcher himself, but he was going to do whatever Lamar told him to do. So will they do a legacy sequel for this? I mean, probably. And I'll watch it after Top Gun Maverick. I'm not about to count anything out as happening and being good. I had this on the schedule to line up with Mission Impossible 8 and then, life happened, so everything is a week behind. But next week, a spooky one.